What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Fino Flash podcast featuring your homies. Obviously, it's me, Daddy Fino, Bay, and of course, my co-host, the one and only JT Flash. Shout out to the people, JT.
What's up?
I hate when you sound like that. You sound so defeated. Like, just like you're going to feel later on in this episode.
What's up?
Thank you. At least, thank you. I love the emotion now. I mean, it's like I said, it's going to end pretty soon. I'm going to kill you this episode. You know, we've been arguing, I would say, since like episode 1. I think it's the first time I mentioned the name. And you say little slick comments about it and piss me off. And I'm tired of it. See, ladies and gents, we said it last time on the last episode. We were going to talk about this. We were going to do the debate. We've been teasing it for a long time. This episode, we're going to be debating the career of Mark Sanchez. Now, for some odd reason, you know, JT feels the way he feels about Mark Sanchez. I don't know why. I feel like Mark Sanchez bullied him as a kid or something. I don't know. You know, I mean, JT, like, what's your deal with him, man? He hurt your feelings? He steal your girl or something? What's up?
No, let's be real. I think I'm more than fair enough, nice guy to athletes on this podcast. I actually have no issues personally with Mark Sanchez, other than this pedestal you seem to put him on that I need to tear down. I'm trying to help you. This episode is about you moving on. You know, that is what it is.
Okay.
You made some statements like about him, you know, as if he's sitting over there wearing a gold jacket. And I had to tell you, he's not wearing a gold jacket. He's wearing some denim jacket from like a Walmart bin or something. You know.
Wow, the disrespect. You know what, man? I've said it plenty of times, and I'll say it again. Mark Sanchez is the most accomplished quarterback that you have had on your Dallas Cowboys since Troy Aikman.
Well, I mean, that's where you're wrong, because if you want to go off playoff wins,
hey, hold on. Okay. Hold on. Before you bring on your little what's that word that Stephen A. uses, soliloquy? Before you go on your little soliloquy or your banter or whatever the hell you want to call it. Today, to help, keep this debate going, okay? To smooth things over, make it nice and easy, because I feel like we're going to be attacking each other back and forth a lot and interrupting. I feel like we need a special guest referee. It is Monday Night Raw. It's going on right now, actually. So a special guest referee, a special guest moderator. And I couldn't think of a better person than the Daddy Fino Flash podcast Facebook group moderator, our boy, Eric. Yo, E, are you here?
Big E? Baby, I'm here.
There it is. There he is. Big Easy, Eric. Look, man, you got a tough job today.
Tough job. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know if you're ready for this, but I hope that I'm gonna defeat him bad. So if you want to end this in the first round, TKO, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it. I like, this is not even a honestly. Did you see the last UFC fight where it ended in 6 seconds?
6 seconds. It was pretty impressive.
I'm planning on ending this in 2. Like, that's how big of a beatdown this is about to be. I feel bad.
Not if Mark Sanchez is your debate platform. It's not.
Oh man, we're talking about Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez, number 6.
The Sanchez.
Yes, we are. Okay. So, you know what, JT, since you're the guy that for some reason hates this man, I'm going to let you go first, okay? I'm going to let you go first. We're going to have Eric as our moderator. He's gonna, like I said, he's gonna be smoothing things over, hoping us transition things so I don't kill you too bad. So say what you gotta say. Say your things, and then I'll retort. We'll just go on from there.
Well, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. You say Mark Sanchez is the most, what's the word, accomplished quarterback?
Most accomplished quarterback since Troy Aikman for the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, I did say that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, here's where you're wrong, right off the bat. If we're going off, playoff and Super Bowl appearances, the Cowboys have Brad Johnson. He's actually been to a Super Bowl and won. So let's just get that out of the way. So that you're already wrong off the bat. Number two.
What the hell is Brad Johnson? What?
Yeah, he was a backup on the Cowboys roster. Brad
Wow,
Johnson.
we talking backups, really?
Yeah.
I'm obviously talking about starting quarterbacks. Like,
when did Mark Sanchez start for the Dallas Cowboys? Remind me that.
Did he start one game?
No, case closed.
Okay.
He didn't.
Fine. Go ahead. I'll let you get that little slickness. You know what I meant, but go ahead.
I mean, what do I need to say about him? He has not played at a consistent level since he's been drafted. In fact, his career stats are awful. His career stats as a NFL quarterback are awful. He's thrown 89 interceptions to 86 touchdowns. That's terrible. More interceptions than touchdowns, than you're going to sit here and tell me he's never thrown for more than 3,500 pass yards. And in today's game, that's pathetic. He has only 10 fourth quarter comebacks, and on a team where a lot of people would say, especially his second year in the league when the Jets went, what'd they go, 11-5? They brought him in the league to basically be a game manager. That's because that's what he is. I mean, he's not a scrambling quarterback. He's not going to win you games off of his athleticism. So, of course, as a game manager, you're going to be expected to make throws and accurate throws. Now, I'll give you, he didn't have an all-star receiving core in New York, but he had serviceable receivers, especially to go along with the number one rushing attack that he had.
Okay.
So I'll let you go because I have more, but I know I said a lot. So
did you say a lot, or did you?
I said a lot. Because come on, what are you going to refute that with?
Eric, did he say a lot?
He said a lot, but I mean, I want to hear him out. Like, I want to hear what you got. What's your side of it, Ruff? What do you feel about Mark Sanchez's career? I mean, in general.
He says, let's just start with he started mentioning Mark Sanchez's career stats. Okay, you want to get into career stats? Let's get into career stats because I'm getting tired of you.
Well, before you do that, I will say, I've got it at the tip of my fingers right here. I can pretty much pull up any quarterback, any team you want. I've already got Mark Sanchez and a couple other ones I know you guys might want to talk about. So, if you just give me a second whenever when you say something, I'll get the stats pulled up and we can actually look at them in live time too. So,
hey, no problem.
I'm right here with you.
Don't worry about it. I don't need it because I got it all in my mind right here.
You got Mark Sanchez memorized, I guess, huh?
So let's just get things started. Okay. The man got drafted number 4. Okay.
Number 5.
The New York Jets, we traded up for him. He was number 4.
He was number 5.
On the
2009, he was number 5th overall pick out of USC.
This 4, he was number 4. All right, whatever. I'm thinking about something else. All right. Anyway, so you trying to throw me off early. Okay, cool. It's cool. All right, look. Anyway, number 5th pick. All right, number 5 pick, whatever. Anyway, he played 4 years at the Jets. Now, I'm going to mostly focus on the Jets because it was the Jets where, A, obviously that's where he's most famous for being, and B, this is where my organization screwed him also. Okay? This was the downfall of Mark Sanchez. The rise and fall all happened in New York. Now, You talk about, yes, his career numbers is 86 and 89. Okay. 86 touchdowns, 89 interceptions. It's not good. It's not terrible, but it's not good. Okay. His career with the Jets, he's actually 68 and 69 touchdowns to interceptions. So it's still 50-50. All right, cool. Well, let's just look about his record, his career record. He started the year, his rookie season, okay, 8-7. He missed the game.
Okay.
8-7. Took his
I'd like
team.
to rebuttal after this, but go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. Like I said, he took his team. He's the quarterback. He's the leader. I already know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, "Well, you had the number one rushing. You had the number one defense."
I'm not, but it's okay.
It's true. He did have the number one rushing, number one defense. He had it for 2 years straight, 2009, 2010. But in the playoffs, okay, he took his team to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years. Second rookie to ever do that, by the way. He has 4 playoff wins, all on the road, by the way. That's third in all time. Also, can you name – how many quarterbacks can you name that have beaten Peyton Manning and Tom Brady at home?
Did Mark Sanchez beat Tom Brady, or did the Jets' number one defense and number one rushing attack beat Tom Brady and Peyton Manning?
How about the 3 touchdowns that he threw that game? Okay, thank you. Guys, just if you're gonna interrupt me.
No, but you realize in 2009 when they went to the playoffs that they wouldn't even have made it there if in the last 2 games of the season they didn't play a backup Bengals quarterback and then the game after that a backup Colts quarterback.
He's got you there.
They would have gone 8-8 at best.
Okay, but
Sanchez
hold on. Then
20 interceptions.
You're right. In the last game of the Bengals, we did play the backup. Did we play the backup the very first game of the playoffs when we played the Bengals again and we whooped their ass?
No, but that's
it's irrelevant though, because we beat them when they had the starting quarterback, when it mattered, when they were home in the playoffs.
You got 2 games to squeak in a wild card. Keep going.
JT said playoffs?
Okay. Mark Sanchez, how many? Let me ask you this. You're talking about Mark Sanchez and sneaking into the playoffs. Okay. Did Tony Romo sneak to the playoffs?
I'm sorry. Have I ever put Tony Romo on the pedestal you put Mark Sanchez on? I thought this debate was about Mark Sanchez, not about Tony Romo.
Hold on. Since you guys are bringing up Tony Romo, I mean, if you want to look at it though, how many? You even brought it up before, Ruffin. You know, you said Mark Sanchez is the best, the most accomplished quarterback career-wise that the Cowboys have seen since Troy Aikman.
Pretty much.
So what are we basing that on? Are we basing that on touchdown versus interception?
Isn't the goal is playoffs? I mean, a regular season really doesn't matter.
The goal is Super Bowl, and Mark Sanchez doesn't have one of those either.
He doesn't. But at least he got closer.
I'm sorry. Do you get trophies and rings for getting close to the Super Bowl, or do you get trophies?
No, but it's still an accomplishment. I mean, let's just be honest.
You want to be honest, give Tony Romo the number one rushing attack and number one defense and see what he does.
That's not my fault.
It's not my fault Mark Sanchez had him either, and he still lost.
He did lose. But I'm just saying, at least Tony, he got his team there. Tony got what? How many playoff wins he got?
There, he rode the coattails of a number one. I can't.
He rode the coattails.
I'm about to sign off this podcast. He threw 20 interceptions that year and 12 touchdowns and threw for 2,400 yards. What about that is leading a team to the AFC Championship game?
Yo, your quarterback is your leader, okay? He had a quarterback record is 8-7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, second year, 11-5. Third year, 8-8. That was his first 3 years. No losing records his first 3 years.
He has 12 300-yard passing games as a starter in the NFL. 300 yards in this era of football is
he only really played 3 years. 3 years of really playing multiple. Let's just be honest. 2012. All right, he played 4 years. Okay, so he played 12. You say yes, 12 games of 300 yards. Okay, you already listed that he was a game manager. Game managers are not meant to be.
But I'm using your point as he led his team there. Game managers don't lead their teams anywhere. They manage the game.
You don't have to have crazy stats to be a leader.
I mean, you don't have to have crazy stats to be a leader, but I mean, you kind of also you have to be able to rally your team and actually lead them to wins. I mean,
so why is it that he has the most comebacks in Jets history?
Because the Jets have been awful, and he has 10.
Okay. Well, he has the most game-winning drives in Jets history.
I'm pretty sure Jay Cutler has more comeback wins than Mark Sanchez. I think Jay Cutler is terrible.
Like I said, more game-winning drives in Jets history, most franchise postseason wins in Jets history, most consecutive conference championships to start a career in NFL history, most playoff wins by a rookie. I mean, these are just facts.
This is my problem, Ruffin. This is my problem. Okay.
Now, hold on.
No, you act like he was out there taking 50 passes a game, lighting up scoreboards. He wasn't. So he wasn't leading anyone anywhere.
Look, this is the thing. I think that you keep saying pedestal, like I'm putting Mark Sanchez as one of the greatest of all time. I'm not.
No. You might not be saying those words, but the way you talk about them.
I never, ever in my life have ever said that. Even when we were in the AFC Championship game and all that, I never said Mark Sanchez was an elite player or anything like that. The only thing I ever do with Mark Sanchez, I defend him, and I haven't even got to defending him yet. Because I think, like I said, this is the rise and fall of Mark Sanchez. The Jets were the rise and fall of him. They are the reason why his career is the way he is. And I have yet to even bring up.
Explain that. Explain that to me, please. Explain that. Explain
Let me
that
ask
to everyone. I'm not the only one that thinks you're crazy.
Oh no, I'm going to because let's just look at the Jets history, okay? Can you name the last Pro Bowler skill player that the Jets had?
Off the top of my head?
Off the top of your head.
I would probably have to say Curtis Martin or Darrelle Revis. I mean, if you're talking skill player.
Skill player is receivers.
Okay. That's a skill player is a position. Okay. That's they haven't had I've already said this, he hasn't had a great receiving core.
Never had a receiving core. But never even had a number one receiver. A true number one receiver.
Santonio Holmes is a number one receiver. Plexico Burress is a number one receiver.
Okay.
Braylon Edwards.
I would even
Braylon Edwards.
I wouldn't even go as far as to say that Jericho Cotchery probably.
How can you say that Braylon Edwards is a number one receiver yet he's only had 1,000 yards one time in his whole career? Thank you. Shut up.
He's played for terrible teams. He played for the Browns and the Jets.
If you're a number one receiver, you get 1,000 yards easily.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's not true.
I think there's a guy in – hold on. I think there's a guy in Houston right now that's considered the number one receiver, and he's had terrible quarterbacks. He has a 99 rating in Madden, on the upcoming Madden.
And all his quarterbacks were better than Mark Sanchez.
You want to look that up? You want to look that up?
Yeah, let's look it up.
Look it up.
I guarantee you they've all thrown for more than I don't know in a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure most of his quarterbacks have thrown for over 3,500 yards, which Mark Sanchez has never done.
Bro, you're talking – look, Dak Prescott barely throws over 3,500, so I don't understand why does that matter.
I'm not talking about Dak Prescott. We come on here talking about Mark Sanchez.
I'm not bringing – well, what I'm saying is this. You're saying, wow, he didn't throw over 3,500 yards. Who gives a shit? Dak Prescott's still a good quarterback, and he barely throws over 35. So who gives a shit? That's my point.
Because the difference between Dak Prescott and Mark Sanchez is when the chips were on the table and he's been expected to rise to the occasion, Dak Prescott so far has been able to do that.
He didn't lead his team to the AFC or NFC championship game.
Neither did Mark Sanchez.
Yes, he did. He did it twice.
In what world?
He didn't lead his team to the AFC championship game twice?
No, he did not lead his team anywhere. That's the problem. You're delusional. Mark Sanchez didn't lead his team anywhere. He was a part.
How is a quarterback who throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against Tom Brady in Foxborough in the playoffs not leading his team?
What was the stat line of the rushing game that game, and what was the stat line of the defense?
What does it matter if he threw 300 yards and 3 touchdowns?
Because
and they won 28-21 in Foxborough.
Okay.
The hardest place to ever win a playoff game. Just to win a game, let alone a playoff game.
Okay. So he has one good playoff game, one. And you're going to say that you're going to put him up here as, best quarterback Jets history, blah, blah, blah.
Did I ever say best quarterback? I never even said best in anything about Mark Sanchez. I'm just talking about the disrespect that people give him when he's been decent.
What word is decent?
He was never given a chance. He never had a credible wide receiver. He always played with number 2 or 3s. You talk about Plaxico Burress, who was 34 years old. So I don't know why you keep bringing him up. You brought up Santonio Holmes. Santonio Holmes is, first off, the man was terrible. He played well in Pittsburgh. He got traded to
Super Bowl.
Yeah, I give him. Yeah,
he won them the Super Bowl. If you want to be credible,
let's talk to the Pittsburgh fan about that. Did he win them the Super Bowl?
He caught the catch that won him the Super Bowl.
I'm talking to the Pittsburgh fan, and that's here. Eric, did he win them the Super Bowl?
You mean you're talking about the?
He's obviously talking about the catch, but did he win them the Super Bowl?
No,
I'm not saying Santonio Holmes.
No, I wouldn't say he won them the Super Bowl.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say this: when you have a quarterback, and I'm not talking about here or there. I'm talking about when you have a quarterback who can put the ball in a position for your receivers to catch it.
Correct.
That's the name of the game when you're talking about a quarterback. And I don't know, I'm not as big of a fan of the Jets as, of course, as Ruffin, but I don't know if Mark Sanchez is capable of doing that 75% of the time. But if you look at it, I mean, Ruffin's got a point when he talks about going up against the Patriots. I mean, that in Foxborough, that's a pretty big deal. And if even if it wasn't Mark Sanchez's doing, I mean, you've got to look at it as 3 touchdowns against a star defense, the best team in the nation, 6 times running, 6 times in a row, not almost in a row, 6 times in a decade, let's put it that way. I mean, he's got some parts in his career that shine, but how many of those times that he shines are overshadowed by times that he just didn't really have the snuff to do what he's needed to do. I mean, you can talk about a lot of different things when you're talking about Mark Sanchez. You can talk about beating the Patriots. You could even go as far as, and I know this is going to light a spark under Ruffin's ass, but when you talk about the butt fumble, I mean, there's different things in everybody's career that you have to look at, and I think that the most important thing to see here is that, yes, he had some winning seasons. I mean, he's obviously not the worst quarterback we've ever seen, but is he a quarterback that we can look at and say, well, he's had a more accomplished career than this quarterback or that quarterback? Well, you kind of – it's kind of like a catch-22. I mean, yeah, he may have had a more outstanding career at some points than others, but I mean, let's be honest. Look at Tony Romo here. Yeah, when you look at the stat line, Tony Romo has played a lot more seasons than Mark Sanchez. So had Mark Sanchez been given more time to prove himself, he may have he may have been one of the most greatest accomplished quarterbacks in the league. You can't really, I mean, it's kind of like a tit or tat thing here. You know what I mean?
No, and it's true. What you're saying is true. And let's just look at Mark Sanchez again at this in this aspect. We mentioned the playoffs. Okay, Mark Sanchez has actually improved in the playoffs. Like all his numbers improved tremendously. I mean, he has 2009, for example, 4 touchdowns to 2 picks. Not great, but it's still good. That's way better than what he ever did. 2010, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, which means he's in his two years in playoffs. He's 9 touchdowns to 3 interceptions.
And we can obviously say that 2010 was his most accomplished season. I mean,
Now, well, as a team, yes.
As a team, as an aspect, yeah. But I mean, when it comes down to it, I think that his best season of all was 2011. I mean, if you look at the stat line, he had 18 interceptions and 26 touchdowns. That's pretty impressive, for a 3-year veteran coming into the league.
The first year that he had Santonio Holmes all year.
He did. If I'm not mistaken, did he not have LT that year too, or was that the year after LT?
LT had that was 2010. Yeah, that was 2010. Sean Green.
Oh yeah, 2010 was LT's last one. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. But see, look, it's just like this. 2010, you got to remember, Antonio Holmes didn't play the whole year. He got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Okay? I remember that.
2012, which was really the end of Mark Sanchez's career when you look at it. Okay. Santonio Holmes only played 4 games. So you talk about he always had receivers. He never did it. Okay. His number 1 receiver in 2012 was pretty much Stephen Hill from Georgia Tech. Terrible receiver.
Man, that's pretty trash. Not gonna lie to you.
Let's just be honest. Braylon Edwards only had 1,000 yards in his career one time. Santonio Holmes only had 1,000 yards one time. He's never had players to catch the ball that are even credible.
But even though he hasn't had them to catch the ball, 2010, 278 completions. 2011, 308. 2012, 246. And even in 2014, his first year in Philly, he had 198 completions. I mean, that shows that he can actually get the ball where it needs to be caught, even if he doesn't have the best receivers. But I also think, on the other end of that argument, if you don't have receivers like your, Santonio Holmes, your, Hines Wards at that time, you've got to look at it from the other side of the coin, on the flip side of the coin, Ruffin. Like, yeah, he may have been able to get the ball there, but when you don't have those guys that can catch the ball and make those plays, what are you doing? You're throwing the ball down the field for a guy to catch it and get hit in the air, or catch it and get taken down right there. If you can't capitalize in the red zone, you're not going to get those touchdowns. And defense wins championships, but touchdowns win games. So like when you look back at his stats, touchdown to interception, even if they didn't, but if most of those interceptions he threw led to scoring drives, and he wasn't able to get the touchdowns, I mean, you got to look at that. That's like I said, it's another catch-22. You got to look at the flip side of the coin there. So are we really looking at Mark Sanchez as an overall great passer? Or are we looking at him as an overall great quarterback?
I would – look, I'll be the first one to tell you. I wouldn't put great with Mark Sanchez. I think, and I'm sure –
Accomplished. I'm sorry. I said the wrong word.
I would just say – I've always said it. I always thought Mark Sanchez was a good quarterback that just never really got the opportunity. I don't think. Let's just
This is
you know.
my problem with it. You
Go
saying
ahead.
he's a good quarterback, okay? So when his time with the Jets was done, if he was a good quarterback, how come he wasn't competing for, I would say every year there, what would you say? There's roughly 6, 7 teams looking for their starting quarterback by the time training camp starts.
Oh, easily 6.
Okay.
Easily.
Why wasn't he on a team if he was a good quarterback competing for a starting job at that time?
Because this is the thing, and the world is all about perception. What happened in 2012 to Mark Sanchez?
You tell me. You're the Jets fan.
You know it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a Jets fan to know this. What's the
I know
famous incident that happened on Thanksgiving Day, 2012?
Talking about the butt fumble?
The butt fumble.
Okay.
That is
The infamous.
that was the most. It might be the most. I guess embarrassing might be the word. Embarrassing moment probably in all of sports. Not all.
It was probably I wouldn't say it was the biggest, but it is one of the top blunders of the sports world.
Okay.
I will say that.
I'm gonna call BS on that because
what was it?
No, I'm calling BS on that because Tony Romo botched a snap in Seattle to win him a playoff game.
Okay, but you can botch a snap.
That is true. That's true.
That he did botch the snap, but I'd rather you botch the snap and that than do what Mark Sanchez did. It wasn't what Tony Romo did. Is not on the level of embarrassing like fucking a guy running to the ass
in a playoff game versus a team that had no shot of making the playoffs. That's more embarrassing. A team that was bad.
Embarrassing. That was just a really bad play. But it was like, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing what happened to Romo. We laugh about it because it's the Cowboys, but it was just a bad play. It's not an embarrassing moment that where that shit doesn't happen. That's more likely to happen again, what happened to Romo, than what Mark Sanchez did.
Here's something we also have to look at that time. If I'm not mistaken, when that happened, and he got mocked all over social media, all over the sports world, he came in the next week, if I'm not mistaken, and he was benched because he threw, what was it, three interceptions?
I think it was
which gave, I can't remember who the quarterback was, but it gave the other quarterback time to shine, and they ended up winning that game. So, you could say that it was because of the butt fumble the previous week. You could say because it was embarrassment. We really don't know why he came in that game and completely tanked. I mean, and you could say he completely tanked. I mean, he threw 3 interceptions that pretty much almost – I mean, they didn't score off of, I think, but they didn't even score off of one of them, I don't think. But it was a big blow. I mean, you come off of a game like that, a blunder like that, if that's what you want to call it, or, whatever, a mistake, and then you're benched to a guy that's under you on the depth chart.
Greg McElroy.
And yeah, that's him. Yeah, McElroy. He was from Alabama.
Yep.
So he's benched to Greg McElroy. McElroy comes in, throws a touchdown, wins the game, right? So
then play another game and go.
He doesn't play another game. He doesn't start another game in the Jets for the Jets, correct?
Yep, he never did.
Cool. And so he doesn't start another game that season. The next season, if I'm not mistaken, he got injured early in the season, right? So
yes, he got hurt.
That was obviously, and this is arguably the turn of his career. This is what sent him on that downward spiral. And then he went to the Philadelphia Eagles the following year. So, did we really get a chance to see him shine, or did his decline, no matter how big or small it was, come at just the most inopportune time for him, and he just wasn't able to overcome everything that had happened in that 2-3 year span? You know what I mean?
I don't think he was able to. The way I see it, And I think there's a lot of outside factors that also affected him. You know, you got to go to just look at Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan did not help our team as far as his mouth. You know, it didn't help that every week. I love Rex Ryan. Trust me.
Great coach, just horrible PR.
Yeah, I love Rex Ryan, but at the same time, he's not helping his quarterback. First off, he's not even an offensive coach at all. We all know that. He's a defensive-minded genius who never had an offensive coordinator that was even worth a damn. Okay, we had Brian Schottenheim, fucking terrible. Okay, we never had. He just never had the assistants. He never had skill players. You know, the Jets never drafted. They hadn't drafted a skill player that made it to a Pro Bowl since '96. Let's look at all the draft we had. Not one goddamn good fucking offensive player in all the drafts. We know how to draft defenders. Okay? Defense is, if you want a defense, come to the Jets. We'll draft the defender for you and trade him to you. Okay? We know how to do that. You know, from the Reeveses of the world. Okay? You got the Mama Wilkinsons, you know, the Leonard Williams, the Jamal Adams. We know how to do that. But offensive players, we can't do that for shit.
All right.
We know Rex Ryan. Sorry, go ahead.
You kept telling me earlier, not my fault. Not my fault. We were talking about Ruffin. I don't want to hear that. If a good quarterback's a good quarterback, he doesn't need those. He doesn't need all-stars. That's not our fault. Mark Sanchez didn't have those pieces, and the Jets didn't help him. That's not our fault.
What you're saying, that's complete BS. What I'm saying, when I said not my fault, you still every look. At the end of the day, Tom Brady still had Gronk. Peyton Manning still had Marvin Harrison. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody still had a player that they could go to.
But Mark Sanchez didn't rely on Mark Sanchez to win them games. They relied on their running game, and they had that. They had three in his first 2 or 3 seasons. They had 3 offensive linemen Pro Bowlers and a top rusher in the league.
And then when it was time to throw the football, he had no one to throw to. You can't just run the football every damn game and every damn play. And when he needed to make throws in the playoffs, what happened? He made the right moves. I already brought up his playoffs numbers.
You're saying the receivers he had in that time frame, they weren't good enough to catch a football? That's what you're trying to tell me? Jericho Cotchery, Braylon Edwards, Plexico Burress, Santonio Holmes, Dustin Keller, they weren't good enough to catch a football?
Not to get open on a consistent basis, no.
I can't. I'm done. Yo, this is ridiculous. I'm done. This is ridiculous.
First of all, is Mark Sanchez Tom Brady?
No.
Okay.
Obviously not.
Obviously not. So why would you think? Why are you all of a sudden thinking, oh, because Tom Brady can throw with no receivers, that Mark Sanchez can? I mean, how is it fair that Tom
when
Brady
has Tom? No. Let me ask. When has Tom Brady had the number 1 rushing attack?
How is it okay for Tom Brady to have number 1 receivers? He's had Randy Mosses of the world. Okay, how is it fair that Aaron Rodgers gets to have the all his weapons? Jordy Nelson of the world, Adams of the world. Peyton Manning can have fucking Marvin Harrison of the world, Reggie Wayne of the world. But Mark Sanchez can't. He has to deal with number 2s and 3s, and it's okay.
Okay, we'll give those same quarterbacks you just mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning, the number 1 defense and number 1 rushing attack, and I guarantee you those 3 guys make what they have around them work when they need them to.
So Tom Brady never had a great defense.
I'm not saying he didn't have a great defense, but he never had them at the same time. He never had that tandem at the same time.
He had number 1 rushing last year because they led the league in rushing in the playoffs.
And he won a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Also, Ruffin, look at this, Ruffin. I mean,
Tom Brady to Mark Sanchez. Look what he did with less talent.
I wouldn't even go as far as to go with the Tom Brady aspect because
how fair.
Because I wouldn't even go with the Tom Brady aspect because even Tom Brady, you know, Tom Brady is the quarterback that he is today because of 2 reasons. Yes, he has talent. Yes, he could throw, whatever. Okay, but when you have an offensive line that has nobody on the offensive line less than 6'2", 300 pounds, nobody's getting to you. You've got a million years to throw a ball. Okay? Even if you don't have the best defense, when nobody can touch you because your offensive line is literally as big as 7 Hulks in the NFL, you've got, I mean, I argued that for years and like for 5 or 6 years of Tom Brady's career. I think he even won a Super Bowl or 2 during that time. That nobody touched him. All right, we had even the Steelers. So we had Troy Polamalu. We had James Harrison. We had 2 of the best defensive ends in the league all at one time. We never could touch him. We sacked him maybe 5 or 6 times in that whole 6-year point. I mean, Mark Sanchez has never had that. In fact, a lot of quarterbacks have never had that. But I mean, but also looking at it on the other side of the coin, like JT said, you know, they had LT. Okay, I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. But when you have a rushing attack with LT leading it,
LT was the end of his career. This is not LT.
It still doesn't matter, though. I mean, he's still
Thomas Jones for him. Thomas Jones had a record set of years.
Thomas Jones had 4 great years. He had his 4 great years. Look, let's talk about O-line because you brought him up O-line. 2009, 2010. Both those years, we had the number 1 O-line in the league. Now, this is according to Pro Football Focus, okay? We had the number 1 running O-line, and then pass O-line, we were number 2. And this is 2009, okay? Player was Nick Mango, Hall of Famer. Love Nick Mango. Okay, obviously he was arguably the best O lineman in the league. I think he definitely was. Okay. 2010, we were ranked number 1 in run and number 1 in pass in the offensive line. Okay. Okay, cool. Can't argue 2009, 2010. We made it to the AFC Championship game. Number 1 rushing both years. Congrats to us. Let's go to 2011. 2011, we drop. We drop all the way down to 14th. Okay? We had Brandon Moore. He was getting older. We had Matt Slauson, who was okay. Nick Mango got hurt a little bit, even though he was still playing really well, but he got hurt. Okay? Damian Woody was at the end of his career. Great lineman. Love him. But he was at the end. We also had Wayne Hunter, who was the worst O-lineman in the history of the NFL. Okay. 2012, this is Mark Sanchez's fourth year. This is the year that we went 6-10. Okay. Our line, it got better. It was 12th. But when you watch it on film, and this Pro Football even said it themselves, you watch it on film, even though their numbers put them at 12, is fucking terrible. Okay? This is Matt Slauson, who's just god-awful. He showed some promise when we first drafted him, and then he just died. Okay? Nick Mango was toward the end of his career, but he was still playing really great. We had Austin Howard, who, oh my God, if he was right in front of me, I'd kill him. I swear to God. Austin Howard, terrible. Okay?
Terrible.
That's just the drop off. Okay? Now, our run game. You mentioned Thomas Jones. Love Thomas Jones. Balled out. 2010, we had LT. LT did well. He wasn't LT of the past, but he was still LT doing LT-like things. Okay? 2011, who do we have?
Sean Green.
Sean Green was a one-dimensional running back. He was a power back, couldn't catch the ball for shit.
Did he run for 1,000 yards?
He did get 1,000.
Yeah, they
He
did
did
his
get
job.
1,000. He did his job. He got 1,000, but he was a one-dimensional running back.
If he wasn't running between the tackles, he was getting hit in the backfield all the time.
Exactly. I mean, it was just he got some long runs, but it was mostly, it was like lose 2, lose 3, get 15, lose 3, lose 5, get 10. Like that was Sean Green, and I like Sean Green. I always thought that, maybe if he can get groomed a little bit better, he could be something. But he was at the end of the day, he was kind of terrible. He was really just.
They could groom his hair. His forehead was humongous. He tripped over his forehead every time he ran.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really, and then just the fact you also got to remember when you don't have. This is also 2011. Mark Sanchez he was 8-8 with Santonio Holmes only playing 4 games. So that just tells you. I mean, he's been injured more than he's really played with us, to be honest with you, when you talk about Santonio Holmes. So I don't get how you can even just say that, when I say he has no hope, he had promise on the line. You can have a line, but you still need receivers. You still need a system that fits you that we never provided. Yeah, you can have a great defense, but how are you going to score points? You can't move the ball. If everyone's just crowding the line because they know they don't respect the receivers, how the hell are you going to do anything?
A good quarterback finds a way to get his receivers the ball. That's all I'm saying.
A good quarterback or an elite quarterback, because elite quarterbacks do that.
There are good quarterbacks who aren't considered elite that could find their receivers who weren't star talent the ball.
Not star talent. Okay.
You mentioned Peyton Manning earlier.
I want to know good quarterbacks that do that.
Well, so we're defining good as basically not the top 5 quarterbacks that we.
No, you said good. So I want to know. You said good quarterbacks that do that. I want you to provide examples that don't have teams, that don't have a wide receiver.
Russell Wilson.
Ability. Go ahead.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson had Doug Baldwin. Continue.
Is Doug okay? Doug Baldwin's a top 5, top 10 receiver.
I said a number 1. Doug Baldwin is a number 1 receiver. He's proven that.
But Mark Sanchez had number 1 receivers.
We never had a number 1. How is a player who only had one 1,000-yard season in his early career?
Not my fault. Not my fault.
That's not a number 1 receiver.
That's not my fault. It's not my fault. He only had 1,000 yards. If you can use that argument, I'm using it right back on you.
No, because when I said not my fault, we were talking about how he had a defense. I'm talking about an actual player. Like, do you not know what a number 1 receiver is? You just finally got one.
In Ruffin's defense, I don't think that the top receiver any of those 4 years caught more than 800 yards, 850 yards. Didn't catch 1,000 yards. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you could say number 1 receiver. I'm not a Jets fan. I don't know who the number 1 receivers were, but I don't think anybody on that team caught for over 1,000 yards any of those seasons. And Mark Sanchez was a quarterback there. So,
but let's be real. Mark Sanchez only completed 53% of his passes. Like 50 his first. How many? Okay. What's his career completion percentage? It's under 64. How many
50 it's 50 56.
Yeah, how many 1,000-yard seasons would those guys have had if he was more accurate?
Right.
I mean, that's something to look at too. I mean, if you look at his first, okay, look at the 4 seasons he was for the Jets. He threw 2,400 yards, 3,200 yards, 34, 2,800. Okay.
Right.
But his completion percentage in his first 4 years were 53, 54, 56. He didn't throw for over 60%.
That's not good.
He was in Philadelphia.
So you're going to blame that all on the receivers?
I don't. I'm not saying it's all the receivers, but when you're looking at it, who did he have to throw to? I mean, you have to have somebody there that can get open. That is, I mean, you're playing. Yeah, you play the majority of your games against the Dolphins, and you play and the who was the other one in that division? The Bills. Yeah, the Bills. But that's not your only competition. And anytime you go to Foxborough, they're going to cheat their way through a game, so they're going to referees are going to trip you and stuff. But I mean, let's be real, Ruffin, on that same note. Yeah, his completion percentage is doo-doo. I mean, it's crap. Why can't we say that because Mark Sanchez only threw the ball 56% at his best for the Jets? Why is that not something to look at as as a negative? That's I kind of agree with you. For those first 4 years, he didn't pass for over 60% until he was in Philadelphia. I mean, can you really blame that on his receivers?
Look, I'm not saying that the total thing was on him not having receivers. But I don't understand how you can say, or how JT can say, that not even having credible receivers is not a slight against him. Like, he's never had. I mean, I've already explained it. I've said the stats. He's never had a 1,000-yard receiver in his career. I mean, that's not going to help any quarterback.
But there are other – Cam Newton hasn't had credible wide receivers throughout his career, and he went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Mark Sanchez still has more playoff wins than him. So what does it matter? Well, who cares that you have one run? I mean, let's just be honest. He had the one run. He's also had the number one defense several times, and yet he can only make it. He's only had one run in the playoffs,
and he's one more Super Bowl than Mark Sanchez.
That's true, but he had 1 year. What happened to the other years he had number one defenses? What happened, JT? He lost first round, out.
Yeah, so you're basing Mark Sanchez's whole career off his first 2 seasons with the Jets.
He only had 4 years, and then what else am I going to base it off? My whole point is he never had an opportunity. The minute he had a great year, his third year. His fourth year, they lose. We had a losing record. The butt fumble happens, and he never got a chance again.
Okay. Well, back to that point real quick.
He got hurt.
Okay.
He got hurt, and then never got another opportunity to start for the rest of the season.
So you're saying that every NFL coach and GM out there doesn't realize that a player may be in a bad situation on a bad team and their talent is worth the risk to re-sign them to a team? That's what you're telling me? That they –
What do you mean? He got signed.
As a backup. He didn't sign him to compete for a starting job anywhere. The Eagles weren't in search for a starting quarterback. They had one.
So why did he start?
Because Carson Wentz got hurt. He didn't start because he was better than Carson Wentz.
Well, what are you talking about? Carson Wentz wasn't there.
Or what's his name? Nick Foles. I'm sorry. Nick Foles was there.
Nick Foles was not there. If you're going to, what are you talking about?
On the Eagles?
Nick Foles wasn't there when Sanchez was starting.
Who was the quarterback on the Eagles when Sanchez was starting?
I don't know. You're the one who's bringing it up.
It was either Nick Foles or Carson Wentz. Those were.
It wasn't Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz wasn't there. Carson Wentz was still in high school.
In 2014, Carson Wentz was in high school.
Probably, or he was a freshman in college. I'm about 5 years. He was a freshman in college.
2013?
No. In 2014, when he was on the Eagles, when Sanchez was on the Eagles, it was either Nick Foles was a starting quarterback. I'm pretty sure it was Foles.
Nick Foles was there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what happened? Why was Foles?
He was
what
hurt.
happened to Foles? Okay. So
That's the only reason Mark Sanchez played.
I mean, what does that have to do with anything?
Because you're saying because earlier your argument was the world's about perception, and he had one bad play and then he never played again, so no one ever took a chance on signing him to compete for a starting job. And I'm saying if he's as good as you say he is, or you're not saying he's great. If he's what you're saying he never had help and all this stuff, wouldn't a GM and an NFL coach recognize that and give him a chance anyway?
Well, and I'm not going to bring up politics in this. I'm not bringing up politics when I say the name. But if that's the case, if perceptions is not a case, then why does someone like Colin Kaepernick not have a job whose skill, besides politics and all the need, if we're just talking about skill-wise, he should be a starting quarterback, right?
But you're talking about two different things. You're talking about two completely different things.
No, I'm talking about skill. You just said, how's it a person not give him a chance if we're talking about skill? Correct? Is that not what you said?
That is, but we're not talking about Colin Kaepernick. We're talking about Mark Sanchez.
You said, why doesn't people give Mark Sanchez an opportunity? I just brought up another player whose skill should have him a job. We're just talking about skill. Now, I understand the other stuff. I'm not talking about that. We're just talking about skill. But because of perception, he doesn't have a job also. So it happens.
Why can't we flip that and say because of the perception that Mark Sanchez had, is one of the reasons why he's not in? I mean, he butt fumbles, and then the next year he doesn't do as well, and then
the next year he got hurt.
Then I was gonna say, then the next year he gets hurt. When he goes to the Eagles, he plays. He plays the second half of the season pretty well, but then that following year they get Michael Vick. So he's gone. Wow.
Well, he was there. He was the backup. He played 2 years there. He was with the Eagles for 2 years.
Well, I know that. I'm saying they get Michael Vick, and then when Michael Vick, all right, you get Mark Sanchez versus an older Michael Vick. Who are you gonna play?
Obviously Michael Vick.
Obviously, I'm gonna try Michael Vick. So you have to look at it. This whole conversation is on a bunch of ifs and catch-22s and flip sides of the coins. Had they not had a chance to pick up, look at Mark Sanchez versus, Mike Vick. Okay, had they not had the chance to get Mike Vick, had they not said, okay, Mike Vick, you're good to go on playing in the NFL, they wouldn't have had a chance to get him. Mark Sanchez might have been able to start that next year. It's not about, the perception is, okay, the reason why this quarterback doesn't play might be because of perception, but I've also had some debates with people in the past about Colin Kaepernick. I know I'm not trying to flip the script to him, but he also wasn't the best quarterback. He was good, and he's got some good stats, but would I have chose him over somebody else that, probably not. He didn't really have – he led a team to a Super Bowl, but
he's better than – if you're talking, skill-wise, he's better than a lot of the backups that are in the NFL. He should be on a team.
Oh, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
that's my point.
When you look at stats and skill versus perception, okay, that's another gray area because you've got people. All right, you've got people who are playing for teams for a while and they get sent to another team or want to get traded to another team. Take, for example, Antonio Brown. had he not been falling out with players and coaches and everything, he'd probably still be with the Steelers, and we'd probably win a Super Bowl this year. I mean, we're probably going to win a Super Bowl anyway, but, what the perception in politics, I mean, you've got to bring all these things together. It may have been because, the coach just said, you're not doing what I want you to do, or, you're bringing bad publicity, or, that stuff happens even though we don't want it to. I mean,
yeah, that's part of the game.
You can't look at just, I mean, unless you're focusing just specifically on stats year by year, I don't think you really can put a rating on a quarterback that hasn't been able to prove his worth or hasn't been able to perform. I mean, do you agree, or
JT?
Yeah, I mean, I agree to a point, but I think 4 years is enough to display what you can do in the league. 4 years of starting quarterback play is enough to prove what you can do from here on out. You're not a rookie anymore. You're a veteran, an established veteran. You've been starting. What?
With a winning record.
Okay, if he had all of that on his resume and he got hurt, why didn't someone take a chance on him and to compete for a starting job? That's what I'm asking you.
Philly did. That's my point. You're saying that, but Philly did. The minute he got back healthy, he played and competed for the job and started 8 games for them, played in 9. So what are you talking about? You're acting like
you're saying
he was out for years. He missed 1 year because of injury. It was a shoulder injury. Okay, so it takes time to come back. The minute he was healthy, he got signed with the Philadelphia Eagles and started 8 games, won 4-4. And actually, statistically, he was having a better year that year than he ever had.
I'm not disagreeing, but what we just said before all this was there are 6 teams at least who have they're trying to find their quarterback when the season starts. They have a rookie or a veteran who didn't perform well the year before. I'm saying, why did he go to the Eagles? He didn't go to the Eagles.
Why is he not with the Arizona Cardinals right now?
Yeah, where is he at? If he's this good player with all this stuff on his resume you just said, why isn't he having a starting job right now?
You talking about today?
Yes. Today, any point in time. There's been teams that have had terrible quarterbacks.
That's the thing, JT. You're talking about today. I never brought up today because I'm not talking about today.
Okay,
I'm talking his fall happened 2012. That was 7 years ago.
But let's not act like there hasn't been teams between now and then who have had a carousel of quarterbacks for years searching for their franchise QB.
Do you not understand? I don't think you understand the whole thing of what I've been saying since I started. Did I not say the rise and fall of Mark Sanchez happened with the Jets, which means he fell with the Jets, correct? That means his career, I said it earlier, you can rewind it. I said his career was over with the Jets. Did I not say that?
You did, but you're telling me the word about perception because players have had rises and falls with their old team and go to a new team and play well.
He played well in 2014 with Philly.
As a backup. He played well as a backup. He went from it. You realize he rose and falls as a starter and then went to play somewhere as a backup.
You know that Nick Foles was not like Nick Foles that he is now, right?
Was he or was he not the starter for the Philadelphia Eagles when he was drafted there? You realize Andy Reid was still the coach at that time.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything? He competed for the job. And actually, no, he wasn't. It was Chip Kelly. So know your facts.
No.
Not fucking Andy Reid.
Nick Foles. Andy Reid drafted Nick Foles.
Okay, but he wasn't the coach. Because 2013, Chip Kelly was the coach. Okay. So what are you talking about? 2014, Chip Kelly was the coach.
Did Nick Foles play the first half of the season or the second half?
He's the one who brought him up.
Mark Sanchez was not the starting quarterback of the Eagles. I'm
telling for 8 games. So what are you talking about?
Injury.
Okay, you said Nick Foles got hurt. I'm gonna look at the roster. Let's see. Nick Foles. Who started the first 8 games?
Okay.
Because I don't know who started first. I don't know about the Philadelphia Eagles, so I don't know.
So he played 9 games in 2014.
I just said.
Eagles. Okay, we
just
said 8, so relax. Nick Foles played the first half of the season before he got hurt.
Nick Foles. What was Nick Foles' first year?
2013.
2013. So he was already the starting quarterback. Okay.
He was picked in 2012.
He was picked in 2012. Played terrible. Was 1-5. Then his second year, that's the year he goes off. He had a great season. 2014, he plays. What happens? You said he got hurt. Okay. Mark Sanchez steps in. When it's 4-4, they make the playoffs. Or did they miss the playoffs that year? Let's see. Nope, they did make the playoffs. So Mark Sanchez,
that year.
They did make the playoffs that year. 2000. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They did not make the playoffs. So they had a 10-6 record but missed the playoffs. So Mark Sanchez did his job. He also was having statistically, he was having one of his best years.
Well, I think one thing that we should probably do is gear the conversation a little more toward, what you started to say at the beginning of the, when we first got together. You mentioned Mark Sanchez had, and you used the word more accomplished, a more accomplished career than anyone on the Cowboys since Troy Aikman.
Yeah, I just say that to fuck with him. If you go with playoffs, I was mostly talking playoffs. Then obviously he is more accomplished than Tony Romo in the playoffs. But regular season,
obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty easy. All you gotta do is probably just win the game. I don't even know how many games Tony Romo won, but in the playoffs, but probably just won. I don't know. Mark Sanchez beat that his first year, so that's why I joke about that. But technically, I'm right. If you're talking about playoffs, it's not even close. I mean, all I'm saying is this: Mark Sanchez. I've never said he was a great quarterback or elite quarterback or anything like that. I'm just saying, based off the talent around him, the fact that his team has never ever drafted, any good offensive players. Okay, this helped support him to give him any hope. Okay, just the fact that our coaching was bad. Our coach only focused on defense. He would walk in and even say it. He would say it to all the reporters and everything. That only thing he cared about was defense. Didn't even look at the offense. Didn't study offense. Didn't do anything. We've had terrible offensive coordinators. In fact, we've had several throughout the years that Mark Sanchez was there.
And historically, Rex Ryan and his brother and even his dad were all defensive minded anyway. So I mean, that's
right.
That didn't help.
Yeah, it didn't help. He never had the support system at all. Okay. Yes, he had a defense. That's great. But you got to score points. You can stop people, but you still got to score points yourself. And if he had any type of talent, I think that his career would have been a lot better. He did, I think, pretty well with what he had. You brought up Santonio Holmes several times. Santonio Holmes missed a lot of games. Braylon Edwards, suspensions, got injured, and was also up in age. Plaxico Burress, the 1 year he had him, he was 34 years old. LT, he had LT. LT was at the end of his career, only played 1 year with us. Was still good, but he wasn't LT. We've had all this expiring talent, I guess you could say. No one credible enough to even be really a threat. And I don't know how you can be an offense that's even considered good without players that can do anything. They can't get open. In fact, the Jets are known for not having receivers that get open. I mean, that's just the way we've always been. So I just don't get it. You know, Keyshawn Johnson was the last receiver that was drafted by the Jets that was actually worth a damn. That was in 1996. We're in 2019. Just saying. But, you know, that's just me. I mean, I don't know. Every other good quarterback gets at least somebody that's worth a damn.
Well, that's my point. You're talking. I'm not saying those people were elite, but they are credible enough to catch a ball when they needed to.
How can you catch a ball when you're not on the field?
So all his wide receivers were hurt. I understand Santonio Holmes was hurt. I understand Ben Evers was suspended. Jericho Cotchery. I don't remember him missing a ton of games or being suspended.
Yeah, but Jericho Cotchery was at best a slot receiver, not a threat. He wasn't like he was good. He had great hands.
Okay. Let me ask you something.
But he's not going to blow by off. He's not blowing by the defense. He's not a game changer. Never was a game changer. He's not a playmaker. Not going to do anything great. He's just a good route runner that can catch.
Let me ask you a question, because we talk about defense a lot. So you're saying you're giving the excuse, or not excuse because it's true. You're saying that for the majority of Mark Sanchez's career, that when they had the number one for the rushing attack, they were defenses were stacking the box, correct? That's what you're telling me? I'm asking. I'm not.
Yeah, they had to.
Okay, I understand that. I'm agreeing with you. So that means somewhere on the outside, there was one-on-one coverage, correct? If they're stacking the box, that means somewhere one of your receivers has one-on-one coverage, correct?
100%.
Okay, so you're telling me that Plexico Burress, even at 34 years old, Santonio Holmes, even being injured, Braylon Edwards, Jericho Cotchery, they didn't beat one-on-one coverage consistently? That's what you're telling me? Every time they stacked the box, you're telling me that there was not.
No, they didn't. And I'm going to tell you why. First off, if you know Plaxico Burress, you'll know that Plaxico Burress is not a speed guy. Plaxico Burress is just a big wide receiver.
Okay. But can they throw him jump balls? Can an accurate quarterback throw Plaxico Burress, a tall, big receiver, jump balls accurately where he could come down for first down?
He did. And he did do that. But you try telling a 34-year-old to do that consistently.
That's not my fault that he was on the field. That was not my fault he was playing at 34 years old. If he's playing at 34 years old, I expect him to be able to do the job.
That just proves my point. He couldn't do the job, and yet they still had him on the fucking on the field. Like, that's the whole point.
Okay.
Like, you say not my fault, but you're saying it for the wrong occasions. That's my whole point.
Okay, what about Braylon Edwards?
Braylon Edwards was the same type of receiver as Plaxico Burress. They filled the same role, but he's not a guy that can get separation. He's a guy, if you remember, what's his most famous catch of all time? Do you know Braylon Edwards' famous catch?
You tell me. You're the Jets guy.
I was just asking you. Do you know what I'm just talking about in his history, not just Jets. Do you know what his most famous catch is?
Was he playing for Cleveland? He's playing for Cleveland.
It was with the Jets, but I was just curious if you knew. His most famous catches his whole career was the jump pass that Mark Sanchez threw to him. Mark Sanchez, this was, I believe, 3rd down and 4. I could be wrong about the yardage. Okay, 3rd down against the Patriots in New England. This is the game to win the game, pretty much. This sealed the game for the New York Jets. Mark Sanchez drops back, throws basically it was a deep route. He threw it to the outside corner shoulder. Braylon Edwards jumps, does it like a 180, catches it and lands inbounds. Game over, seals the game. Perfect pass by Mark Sanchez to Braylon Edwards. That's the only thing Braylon Edwards was good at, was jumping and catching. He can't separate. Was never a separator. Okay, let's go to Santonio Holmes. Santonio Holmes was a good route runner. Didn't have great speed, and Eric is a Pittsburgh fan. He could tell you the truth if I'm lying. He had good speed, great route runner, good hands, but he's not a difference maker. He wasn't. If he,
Okay.
That year
he
he
had
was
his engine.
and even Santonio Holmes at Pittsburgh was a number 3 wide receiver at best. I mean, I would say he was a 2 at best because we had Hines Ward. I mean, we had
Ward. And Hines Ward, even though Hines Ward is a great receiver, Hines Ward is not he wasn't like he was Randy Moss.
Time
You
out.
know,
All right,
no,
now
I'm saying
you're overstepping.
I'm saying he's not a talent.
No, I get what you're saying though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've listened and I can see both sides of the argument here. Like, I think it's good. I think we should point out throughout this whole conversation here that yes, Mark Sanchez, although he wasn't obviously a great quarterback. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the worst we've ever seen. Obviously, I mean, you can look at guys that were drafted around him. I mean, Sam Bradford was pretty good. I think he was drafted with Matt Stafford in the same, same draft.
Sanchez and Stafford were the top 2 quarterbacks.
2 years after was Cam, obviously. And then after that, I mean, you can look around. There were some pretty decent quarterbacks drafted around him, but he obviously didn't have top wide receivers. He didn't have a lot of the things that other quarterbacks at the time had. And that, I mean, you have to give him that. I mean, it wasn't the best circumstances in the world for a quarterback. Now to turn around and say, he was one of the most accomplished quarterbacks, I wouldn't say that. I think
I'd say that against.
I know. I think he was a good talent and he was a good fit for what the Jets needed at the time. But we're talking about the Jets here. I mean, historically, they haven't been. They're historically a good team at best. Like they're never been a great team. They've had some years in the past where they've ended up, going far in the playoffs, but
yeah, we've had our moments.
It's not. I mean, that's one of those things that just comes with time and comes with good coaching and good picks and a good front office. They've never really had what other teams have had. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they came around later in the game. I mean, yeah, they're an older team. They're not like a newer whatever franchise, but not like the Panthers. But I can kind of see points that Ruffin's made all night, and I can kind of see points that, JT, you've made. It's one of those things, and I always put it like this when I'm talking about player versus player or stat versus stat. Like, everybody's situation's 100% different. Like, it may not seem that way when we're looking at it, but even with him and the Colin Kaepernick deal, yeah, there's good players that have, talent and can play the game, but their circumstances may have not been in the cards for them to be good quarterbacks at teams that needed it at the time. I mean, yeah, the Jets have always really needed a good quarterback, minus a few years in history, but I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know one way or the other whether I can say Mark Sanchez was, he's had a rough break. I mean, he did have a rough break in his career. Didn't really have receivers or an offensive line like other teams did. It's just, I don't know whether I could say he's I couldn't say that Ruffin wins his argument. I couldn't really say JT wins his argument. There have been times where both you guys have kind of hit good points. And I think that's one thing that we can take away from it is when we're talking about people in sports, you kind of have to look at it from both sides of the coin. You can't say, oh, well, he's better than this or he wasn't good enough for that. Yeah. So Ruffin, I agree with you. He had he had a rough break, and his break really kind of sucked for him there. But JT, I completely agree with you in the fact that, you know, he's not really proved anything to me in the past as a quarterback. So
Well, how about this?
that's where I stand on it.
How about this? We're gonna leave this to the people, okay? We're gonna leave this to the people. In fact, when we post this, Eric, once this episode is dropped, okay?
Yeah.
I want you to go ahead and set up a poll, okay?
Okay.
Once this episode is up, you set up a poll and you ask the question, who won this argument? And we will let the people decide, because I understand what both of you are saying. I get it. Like I said, I definitely get it. But you know, we'll just let them decide. It's hard to.
Why don't we do this before we just end it and let people decide? We'll both make closing remarks. How about that?
There you go. That'll work. And then I'll put a poll up and let the people decide. And then if they're in the event of there's a tie, I'll be the tiebreaker.
All right. Well, then, you know what? Ladies first. Go ahead.
You know, I'll be the gentleman and just ignore that comment. How about that? Listen, I'm not sitting here trying to disrespect Mark Sanchez as an individual. I do not like the fact, you know, you may not have said he was the greatest ever, but the way you talked about, you were definitely, I feel like you were glorifying Mark Sanchez a little bit. But the way I'll put it is this: Mark Sanchez may have been part of a winning team his rookie season and his second season in the league. And yes, he did have a short tenure as a quarterback in the NFL. But I feel like 4 years is enough to prove what you could do in the NFL. No, he didn't have a lot of talent, but he did have talent in other areas. I look at it like this. You know, if the Jets those years were a band, Mark Sanchez wasn't like the lead singer. He was like the guy holding the triangle or playing the keyboard. That's how I look at it. But yeah, I'm just gonna let you go. I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback. Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have a large sample size, but I saw enough to argue, you know, kind of the point on which you were glorifying him a little bit.
All right. So my turn. You finished? You know? Okay. All right. So closing arguments. I had a whole speech typed up for this.
You would, Ruffin.
I expected this, but you know what? I'm gonna crumble it up. I'm gonna not use it. This is gonna come from the heart. And Mark Sanchez, I hope that you listen to this. Okay. Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez never got the shot that I feel that a quarterback that you consider the franchise quarterback at the time should get. He never got the respect that he deserved. You know, JT says that he doesn't mean to disrespect Mark Sanchez, yet I feel like everything he said was disrespectful. You know, he's brought up stats, you know, the 3,500 yards and all that. And I just look at, you know, I brought up, that's why I wasn't bringing him up to compare him to Mark Sanchez. I was just saying that 3,500 is not like a big deal. You know, when I brought up Dak, for example, it wasn't a slight at Dak. I like Dak more than JT. He's the Dallas Cowboy fan. Okay. The man only gets 3,800 yards, 3,600, and then he had 3,200. So, wow, big deal. He averages 35. So, anyway, it doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, he's, like I've said countless times already, he's never had the help, never had the support. I don't believe that ownership, you know, truly believed in him. And do they have would I say that they have a point? Yeah, I get it. I get the why people disrespect Mark Sanchez, but at the same time, I feel like if you put any quarterback that's not an elite one, I'm not saying like if you put Tom Brady in that situation. I mean, just you put anyone in comparable in that situation, I think that they would have either done the same or worse. For the talent that Sanchez has had around him, no Pro Bowlers and the skill positions, no Pro Bowlers from running back position besides his first year. You know, if you look at all of that, I don't understand how anyone can say, oh, he had a fair shot. Definitely when most of our draft picks were actually dedicated to the defense and not to the offense. So it just I just don't get it. You know, he's has a winning record in his whole career. He has a winning record. Not many quarterbacks can even say that. And that's with him having more interceptions than touchdowns. And it's like barely. It's like by 2 interceptions, maybe 3. So it's not like it's a total big deal. He wins games. So 3 winning seasons. 3 out of 4 seasons he had a winning record. I just don't get how in any way that's that should be looked at as a bad thing. But you know, I'm just a fan, I guess. But at the same time, I feel like I've been consistent with my stuff. I've never said he was the best. I just think that he should get more respect than what he's gotten before. And that's it. That's how I end it.
Well, it's been really tough for me to be on the fence this whole time. I've been trying to watch my words and make sure I don't lean more one way or the other. But now I'm going to go ahead and give you a little rundown on what I've looked at over the past couple days. I've been looking at the stat lines and getting ready for the, I knew we were talking about Mark Sanchez, and I kind of looked at, where he's come from. I looked at who he was drafted with. I looked at his completion percentage and all that kind of stuff, and looking at it right here with you guys and having you guys talk about it. Yeah, I can agree with you, Ruffin. I don't think he's had the best shot. I don't think he's had the best, opportunity to prove himself. He's only had 4 really good years, and after that, a couple of mediocre years at best. I'm not one for disrespecting players. I mean, I'm obviously not in the NFL, and I never really would have had a chance to be there. Not the best athlete, although I've played sports. There are very few quarterbacks that I can disrespect. There are some that I don't like, and some I don't care for. Mark Sanchez isn't one of them. I've never really had anything against him, but then again, he's never really done anything against my team, so I can't really hate him. On the other side of the argument, he hasn't proven anything because, and we talked about it before, he hasn't had that time. So, do I think that he doesn't deserve the disrespect that people give him? I agree with you, Ruffin.
Be correct that JT gives him. Go ahead.
Well, that JT gives him. Okay. I know he doesn't deserve the disrespect. Yeah, if he would have had a different coaching staff, if he would have had different players, in the skill positions, there's a lot of ifs and ands and buts we can throw in there. I think the most important thing to look at is the aspect of he just didn't have the time and the opportunity to show us, I think, everything he could do. He's had terrible pass completion ratings, terrible. I mean, he, like you said, he threw a couple more interceptions than he did touchdowns. But when you look at his overall passing yards every year, he hasn't disappointed. I mean, there are some quarterbacks right now in the league that don't even have the same numbers he has when it comes to passing yards. So can he sling the ball? Hell yeah, he can sling the ball. Can he get completions? Yeah, he can get completions, the majority of the time. But I think, in my opinion, all of the circumstances that came around him his last 2 years in New York and the next 2 years in Philadelphia, he hasn't really been able to show what he can do, and I think that hurts his argument in a lot of ways. So, like I said, I don't disrespect the man, but I don't necessarily think we can look at it objectively and say that we can determine he was a great quarterback or a good quarterback or an accomplished quarterback or whatever we want to say.
Right.
He hasn't really been able to show it. He hasn't been able to prove it. So that's my take on it.
Well, I respect that. I don't like JT. He probably disrespects you too. I swear Mark Sanchez stole his girlfriend or something. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I really don't know. Like, but
If I was Mark Sanchez and I was listening to this, I'd leave and get a restraining order on one Mr. Daddy Fino Bebe because you give him too much credit. That's my problem. You give him too much.
I don't think he gets enough credit. Like you said it yourself. You're not a Jets fan, so you wouldn't know. So I don't understand how you can't trust.
I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did at the Jets, but as an overall quarterback, I think he gets a little too much credit from you, Ruff. I'm sorry.
That's fine, but I'm strictly talking about the Jets. So, I mean, the only reason I brought up Philly was because he brought up, he didn't get a chance, an opportunity. Well, he did get an opportunity. He played well. He had his best season, arguably his best season there. So, whatever. I already laid it out for him. I shut every point down that he said.
No, you did not.
It's not even close. How embarrassing!
Oh my God.
We'll just have to take it to the polls. We'll see what that does.
Like JT,
we'll see what the people like.
I made JT butt fumble. Pretty much.
God.
But it's okay. Like I said, we'll leave it up to the people. We'll have a poll up once we drop this. But just before we end the episode, I do want to say, there was a tragic death today. Colonel Whitaker, Hall of Fame boxer. We want to definitely say send our condolences to his family, friends, all that good stuff. They're not good. I maybe wrong choice of words, but anyway, he had a very storied career. He's had amazing bouts, against Oscar De La Hoya, Cesar Chavez. He lost to De La Hoya in a draw to Cesar, but a lot of people argue to this day that he actually won those fights. He was robbed. So, that just tells you, just about how good this guy was. Multiple-time champion, 4-time champion, different weight classes. Much respect to him. And it's just sad that he's gone, age 55. So he was still pretty young. So other than that, I don't think there was any other news in the sports world. I think besides J.R. Smith, I guess he's got waived. Not sure where he's going. I heard LA's not going after him, so I don't know where the hell he's going. Maybe Philly. I don't know. But JT, you got any updates you got coming out? Any shows, episodes, stuff you slowing it down anymore?
Yeah. I think I mentioned it last time. The next thing is the Pacquiao fight on the 20th. So watch out for that because there was a lot of disrespect, trash talking going on between the two, and I won't say who I'm. I'll wait till closer to the 20th to say what I'm going to say about that. But yeah, watch out for that.
Okay. Also, like in our last episode, we did the NFL we're starting our NFL previews. We did we're ranking worst divisions to the best divisions. Last week we did the NFC West and the AFC East as our worst two divisions. We're gonna start this Sunday again. Bring it back again with our next two divisions. Won't say what they are. You just have to tune in and find out.
Even though we all know which ones they are, but
I'm pretty sure we have an idea. But yeah, so definitely tune into that. I also want to thank our moderator here, Eric Big Easy. I appreciate you. I think you did a great job today. Stopping me from killing JT.
I think it was the other way around most of the time. But I mean,
well,
I was being nice too. I didn't even.
He didn't even. He was holding punches. He wasn't even.
What's crazy? We may have to have a part two because I didn't even say half of the stuff on my paper.
I didn't even have a paper. Maybe I'll be promoting.
We'll have a part two reloaded where we just go all out. I can give. Unless I'm a moderator, I'm more of a take a stand kind of guy.
Bro, I wrote a term paper. I could turn this in for a grade right now and get a
thesis. He wrote his thesis on Mark Sanchez.
So shout out to Mark Sanchez. At the end of the day,
shout out to everybody we've talked to tonight. We've mentioned some
pretty
good
tonight. Just shout out to all of you guys. Definitely my Jets. At the end of the day, I'm just a huge Jets fan, and I'm gonna love my team, and I'm gonna go and defend my team as much as possible. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'm obviously right. But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna show support, just like I expect you guys to show support for your teams. We should be getting to your teams pretty soon in our NFL preview. So, like I said, I'm not going to tell you who the two divisions are, but I'm sure that we'll hear from both of you. Definitely you, Eric. I'm sure you'll be on an episode pretty soon. Yeah.
Be glad to come back.
Like I said, we appreciate you. So I think we're going to end it right there. I'm Daddy Fino Baby. That's JT Flash. Peace.